Good afternoon, and welcome to the Superintendent's Conference Room at the United States Air Force Academy, and thank all of you for joining us virtually. We'll be here for a little while this afternoon. I'll get a chance to introduce some leadership as well as a chance to take some of your questions. It's really hard to tell you how disappointed we are that we're not doing this in person. Our intent today is really to focus on the parents of the class of 24. And normally in a normal year, after dropping off in I-Day, we would meet all of you in one of our halls here in Arnold Hall with a chance to talk to you and a chance to take your questions on that day. But apologies, but certainly in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, we're doing the best that we can under these circumstances, and but we still wanted to take a chance to talk to you virtually. It's certainly highly unusual that we're going to do this virtually, but also I recognize fully that it's also unusual that so many of you haven't had a chance to completely visit the campus and to see all of the pieces and all of the things that these young men and women are doing and the opportunities that they have, as well as just we miss that face-to-face interaction. So all of that, I apologize. But let me start out really with a sincere welcome. Welcome to being part of the United States Air Force Academy family. And for those of you without any military experience, really, welcome to the military and welcome to the Air Force family. I'm Lieutenant General Jay Silveria. I'm the 20th Superintendent of the Air Force Academy. As the Superintendent, if you're not familiar, I am the college president as well as the commander of the installation and all of the elements that are here. I'm a 1985 graduate of this institution. I've spent nearly 4 decades in uniform. I'm a pilot of a number of aircraft and been in leadership roles in the Air Force for a number of years around the U.S. and around the world. My plan here today is to speak with you, give you some important points that I think, and then you'll get a chance to meet our Commandant, our Dean of our faculty, which the Commandant, by the way, I'll back up, Commandant, for those of you not familiar with the military, you can consider that would be the Dean of the students, and then we have a Dean of faculty, and then our Executive Director of athletics that'll talk to you about programs. I also have a couple other people because we're in the middle of the pandemic that I mentioned. I have our senior physician, our command surgeon that is also here as in case we get any questions regarding COVID, certainly, and we'll be prepared to take those on. Your sons and daughters are really on the beginning of a long journey, and I can certainly tell you from personal experience of my career that you have every reason to be so incredibly proud of these young men and women. And I'm also a father, by the way. I have 2 boys that are in their early 20s, so I know what it's like with this age group, and I also know that they have a lot of work in front of them. But you should be proud of them starting this journey as basic cadets that they've chosen. It's an ambitious path. I mean, it certainly isn't going to be easy. But they're here because we believe in them, and we're certainly proud and grateful that you have sent them here. We take that responsibility intensely seriously, that you sent these young men and women here to the United States Air Force Academy. So thank you for everything that you've done for them to get into the United States Air Force Academy. I welcomed you to the Air Force Academy family before, and to the Air Force family. I do recognize that for many of you, this is also your first experience, not just with higher ed. It may be your first child to go off to college. It may be your first one in the military. I recognize that for many of you, this may be your first real exposure to the United States military and to the Air Force. And believe me, we will help you with all of that and help you understand that. But we're certainly honored to have you And and I guess all of that also is to say I'll do my best to avoid any military acronyms or any military speak along the way. I think the most heartening thing about this job, the most exciting thing about this job is these young men and women. It's really remarkable. So it's just a privilege to serve in this position. So as a parent out there, I'd also offer that you have other ways that you can remain connected to this family. There are 84 parent clubs across the country. And some of you have already been involved in virtually hosted events, but that can be a source of information and support. And we'll say, when we say welcome to the family, that's also part of that we mean. We'll do our best to communicate with you frequently. I do have to tell you, as I mentioned, a parent of in their early 20s of two boys who through college that as 18 years old, they own that information about them and as adults. And so we will manage to give them the opportunity and give them the information. We will do our best to communicate with you frequently from an institutional level, but we do recognize that they are 18 years old. They've made the choice to join the military, and that information about them does actually belong to them. And so we'll help them with that, but that's where they're at when they turn 18. There's a woman, Miss Marie Nikovitz, who's the parent liaison, and there's a way for you to get in touch with her. You can look at the website, the information. You can also get through the Parents Club with things like that to try to get some resources and get some information. Before I go much further, I'm sure some of you watching the Air Force Academy news and information have seen that I'm retiring and that there's a new superintendent that's been named. Lieutenant General Rich Clark has been nominated by the President to the Senate for confirmation, and if he's confirmed, then in this fall he will replace me. And I want to assure you that Rich is an outstanding officer that comes with an impeccable record. He will be a great 21st superintendent for the Air Force Academy. I know him well. He's an Air Force Academy graduate, an athlete when he was here, and a pilot with a great record. And with all the other leaders, I'm sure that while you may see a different name at one point, the institution will move on to even greater heights. So I look forward to you having an opportunity to meet Rich when you're out here with one of the events when COVID allows us to do that. So let me talk a little bit about some why. Perhaps some of you have some questions about why we're continuing and what's going on at the Air Force Academy in the middle of COVID. And I'd like to explain a little bit of that. The Commandant's going to give you some updates on how the cadets are doing in basic training, about how that class is doing, about in-processing day and what they experienced and what they're doing now in basic training. But due to COVID, we have had to change a number of the items within training, and so but I assure you that they're still getting enough basic training within the training days that we have. But I know some of you are wondering, as you look around higher education, as you hear schools that are canceling for the fall, or they're not having students report for the fall, or they're really reducing the number of schools. Recognize that that's really not an option for us. The United States military, we have an obligation to continue to provide lieutenants for the United States Air Force. And I would say there's a couple ways to look at this. And one of them is that there's right now there's a lieutenant or a young captain who's been in the military for 4 or 5 years, who is working in a satellite operations squadron, or is flying in a bomber squadron, or is an officer in a logistics squadron, and their replacement is in training right now. And the replacement for the person that's in training is sitting here at the United States Air Force Academy. So we have to continue doing what we're doing. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to do it in a way where we're going to do everything we can to ensure the health and safety of these young men and women in the middle of the pandemic. We have a very detailed and thought out plan for care, for any isolation of any positive cases, for quarantine, and for spacing to prevent the cases. So this is going on in all of the other ways that people assess into the military. Basic training in all of the services, including the Air Force, basic training in the other services continues, so that those pipelines for training to provide those young men and women to serve will continue. It's mission essential, as the Department of Defense has decided. So that's really why we're continuing, and why we're going to continue and get through a number of very different training in some cases, and why some of you can't visit, and all of those elements, so that we can ensure health and safety while continuing to execute their mission. And this will certainly be first of many lessons that they will all learn about being in the military, about that the mission here is the priority, and that starts right now when they're in basic training. But I know that COVID is a concern for many of you, both where you live here in Colorado, as well as among the cadet wing and the faculty. But I assure you, we have a robust public health program. We have a robust medical care, quarantine, and isolation program, and we will do everything we can to prevent any spread of COVID. We have a lot of procedures outlined for the fall that we're going to do as we begin classes in the fall. Our Med Group Commander, our senior command surgeon that I mentioned, he can elaborate on that later, but as an academy, we're going to be very vigilant on COVID. We don't expect to be out of this situation for quite some time, so we are prepared to do this for the long haul. But we should recognize that the class of 24 is an example. Everybody arrived here from 435 congressional districts from all over the country, as well as from many that have been appointed that were outside of the country. And so we're going to experience positive cases. It's a pandemic that has spiked to over 3 million cases in the country. So we're expecting to have positive cases, and we've made plans to deal with those. But without giving out any specific numbers, rest assured that the numbers of cases that we're seeing have been really low, and they're also they're commensurate with all of the other service academies and what the other accession sources, such as basic training, other officer training, that there are numbers that have been very consistent with those groups as they've also taken in people. I also think that it's important for you to understand that this is going to be a dynamic situation. And I'd like you to consider that this is going to be a scale. We're not going to be in a static situation where the rules and the policies and the restrictions and the openness that we have, depending where we are on any given day at the academy or within the state, it's not going to be static. If numbers go up in the state, if numbers go up among our staff and faculty, if numbers go up among the cadets, then we will have to make adjustments in how we do business here. If cases continue to go down in the state, if they go down among the faculty and the cadets, then things will open up. We talk to the cadets all the time about how they can be part of the solution. This is not about military training. This is about safety and health of all of us. We cannot afford to get complacent. We have a mission to do here to train these young men and women, and we're going to continue to move forward, and we may be going up and down the scale. So if you hear about programs that start and programs that are canceled, if you hear about things that cadets are doing but then they're restricted from doing, that's because we're going to react to how the cases are. We can't just stay static in one situation. So let me transition a little bit to talk about the class of 24, something that I would tell you about when you hear on the first day. This class is the most diverse class that we've had in history. That's not by accident. We've spent a lot of time and effort on building a more diverse class than we've had year after year. There's a reason for that, and then that we firmly believe that we have a moral obligation to better represent the society that we serve. We need the diversity of thought. We need the diversity of background. We need the diversity in all aspects of human condition that makes us a stronger force. We need that to take on the challenges that we're going to ask these young men and women to take on. To that end, this class has the highest percentage of women we've ever had, over 30%. It has the highest number and percentage of racial ethnic minority cadets, over 36%, highest that we've ever had. Those are good numbers, but they're not good enough. We're not done. Our outreach and our admissions program will continue, and it'll continue to grow as we continue to focus on looking for more ways to attract a more diverse cadet population. I certainly know that all of us are fully aware of what's going on with our country as we are becoming more and more aware of racial disparities and racial discrimination, and having a constant conversation about that. And that's also continuing here at the Air Force Academy. This week we have I signed out a letter. We're going to begin a review at the Air Force Academy of all elements, from curriculum to artifacts to policies to procedures to artwork to elements. We're going to begin a review of everything at the Air Force Academy to look for any racism, any bias in discriminatory practices. The United States Air Force, under Secretary Barrett, has also started this at the Air Force level. We are focused on the elements here at the Air Force Academy. I'd like to talk a little bit now about some of the big elements that are coming up on the schedule. First off, on this Saturday, the class of 24 will take their oath of office all together as a class. We will videotape that and be able to share that on July 11th. Also, there's the march back from Jacks Valley, which in the past has been open to the public for you to see the cadets returning from basic training. It will not be open to the public this year, but we will find a way for you to participate in that virtually, so that you can see that event. So I think the full details, again, you'll see those on the website and some of the information that we had before, and then we'll show you some stuff after where you can find the details on that. Similarly, when they are done with basic training, there's an acceptance day parade where those that have met the requirements of basic training are accepted into the cadet wing to begin their academic program and to begin their military training program as a member of the cadet wing. I know that a number of you are asking about Parents Weekend that is over Labor Day weekend in September. Right now, we do not have enough information to make that decision. I know for some of you that's probably frustrating. I recognize that fully. We want to delay as long as we can to make the decision about events on Parents Weekend, such as visitors, such as a football game, such as access to the cadets. We're going to delay to make that decision, and when we can make that decision, we think we will get that information out in the third week of July to let you know. Also, I know that a number of you have heard about information about two different options regarding Thanksgiving, and so I wanted to explain that. Depending on how our COVID numbers are going in the state or how they're going here at the within the academy, we have two plans to deal with Thanksgiving with that fall break. In one case, we may just continue on and do a normal schedule with a Thanksgiving break and return after that, and then complete the semester in the first part of December. But depending on the numbers and where we're at, we may not have that fall break and continue on with the academic schedule and finish earlier in December and have a longer break for that winter break over that holiday. In order to do that depending on the numbers and the situation with COVID, then we would have to have a time of restriction of movement for the cadets when they come back in January. All those are things that we're considering, and we expect to have an answer on Thanksgiving on 1 October. I know all of that is uncertain, and we are all dealing with the uncertainty in so many ways, and we will do our best to continue to update that. So to review, we will let you know about Parents' Weekend, the 3rd week of July, and we will let you know about Thanksgiving on the 1st of October. So with that, I'm now going to give you a chance to hear from our senior leaders. And at first, it'll be our Commandant, our Dean, and the Executive Director of Athletics, and I'll let them introduce themselves. And first, I will pass it over to our Commandant.
Good afternoon, and certainly I would like to echo the superintendent's comments and say thank you for joining us, and also echo his comment and say that I truly am sorry that this is the way we're getting to have our first conversation, and we all missed the fact that we couldn't do this on I-Day and we couldn't welcome you in person. I'm Brigadier General Michelle Edmondson. I'm the 29th Commandant of Cadets at the United States Air Force Academy. As the Commandant, I'm responsible for military training and discipline and the general care and well-being of our over 4,400 cadets in the cadet wing. As the Commandant, your sons and daughters have already seen a lot of me over the last 2 weeks, and they will continue to see a lot of me over the next few weeks. And I can't tell you how excited I was when we began our journey 2 weeks ago on I-Day, and every single day I've become more excited about this journey and watching them grow and develop and change and accomplish so much in just 2 short weeks. As a parent myself, I certainly expect that you never imagined you'd be dropping your child off at a military service academy in a global pandemic. And I think it's really important that we have an opportunity to give you updates and tell you how your sons and daughters are doing while they're here in basic cadet training, and to update you on that journey. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the training they've had so far and where they are and what I think about the progress they've made. I can't tell you how incredibly proud I am of how they are doing. And that's not just the class of 24, that's also all of the upper class cadets, the cadet cadre that are doing the training of the class of 24. I don't think 6 weeks ago I would have told you we would have been able to accomplish nearly as much that we have accomplished in the first 2 weeks, and certainly not that it would have gone as well as it has gone. So I couldn't be more proud of what I see from your sons and daughters every single day. I want you to know that truly, a day does not go by that we don't reflect on the fact that it's hard to leave your home for the first time, for an 18-year-old to be away from their parents for the first time, the comforts at home. And your sons and daughters did it in a global pandemic, and that is not lost on us. And we think this makes this a very different experience than every other class has had that has come before him. Your sons and daughters are truly showing incredible courage and sacrifice as they work through this, and I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to have them here and see everything that they are giving to this experience in a global pandemic. I want you to be assured that the entire cadet wing team has worked incredibly hard to get ready for the class of 24. And I can truly say with great confidence that our cadre have never been more prepared to execute basic cadet training than they were for the class of 24. They've worked extremely hard to ensure that they create an environment where every single one of the basic cadets in the class of 24 has a sense of belonging and connectedness, enabling them to thrive in this basic training environment. It's amazing to listen to the cadet cadre talk about the progress of the class of 24 to date, and to a T, every single one of them will say this class is doing better than the class did last year, or this class is doing better than they did when they were basic cadets. And as the Commandant, I want you to know that I've spent a lot of time out and about with your sons and daughters over the last 2 weeks. It is an absolute priority for me to be present in their training environment and have eyes on what's going on. And again, I couldn't be more impressed with the progress that they have made. So as we take this journey together, I want to allow a little bit of insight into what training has been like in this COVID world and give you a few updates and kind of talk about the evolution of both BCT and COVID as we blend the two here in basic cadet training. So as you know, it's been just over 2 weeks today that they've been here, and it's been amazing to watch them evolve, to watch our processes evolve, and to watch the program adapt and respond in this world of uncertainty. You've probably seen a lot of the pictures out there, but they're wearing face masks in everything that they do. And I have to say that the face mask look brings a whole new dynamic to basic military training in a military environment. I also have to say I've been nothing but impressed with their marching, their professionalism, their military bearing, their room standards, their knowledge, their physical conditioning. They have come so far, and you would be incredibly proud. But let me tell you, this isn't easy for them. And in some ways, some will tell you this is a much harder experience because it is happening in a global pandemic. Since arriving, they've undergone an initial 2-week restriction of movement where they've been vigorously tested for COVID on days 0, 7, 10, and 14. And this really has helped inform us and given us the tools we need to control and mitigate any potential spread of COVID. They've also been placed in family groups, flights of 30 individuals, and they really only interact with that cohort of 30 individuals while still maintaining their physical distancing within that cohort of 30 as much as possible while wearing their mask and also abiding by all of the other CDC guidance that is out there. Their training has been a combination of virtual and in-person training. We tried to front load everything we could in the standard BCT program that could be done virtually into those first 2 weeks as we work through that ROM period. And as you may be aware, they will be heading to Jacks Valley early next week, but Jacks Valley is going to look really different this year. We're going to go to Jacks Valley twice. We're going to break them up into 2 cohorts, 600 at a time, and do a week in Jacks Valley with each individual cohort. This will allow us greater separation in their tents for their living and sleeping conditions. And while the one half is down in Jacks Valley, the other half will stay up on the hill and continue the normal basic training things on the schedule, and then we'll just flip them. They'll stay in those family groups in Jacks Valley. We'll maintain the CDC guidelines with 6-foot separation, eating separated, fewer people in restrooms and showers, and a lot more cleaning going on in the normal Jacks Valley environment. Bottom line, I think that our team has really done a phenomenal job modifying our training to meet the standard basic training requirements and give your sons and daughters the basic training experience that they deserve and need even in a global pandemic. And I think really importantly to say, I also recognize the importance of mental health in balancing the training environment with the mental health and well-being of every one of your sons and daughters in this unprecedented time. We've done a lot for the cadets that are in quarantine and isolation to give them outlets to try to balance their mental health, resiliency, and well-being while they're in isolation and quarantine. And we'll talk a little bit more about that with some of your questions. I think it's important to note, we've never been in a global pandemic before. We didn't have a checklist to tell us how to do this. So we are all learning and evolving as we work through this process together. And in some cases, your sons and daughters are really helping us learn and evolve and develop those processes. So it is a learning experience. It is an unprecedented experience, but we're all growing and making it better together. I think I can say with confidence that we're truly doing everything that we can to ensure that your sons and daughters are taken care of in the best way possible. So before I wrap up, I just want to take a second to say thank you. And I do wish I could have said thank you on I-Day. Thank you for raising men and women willing to raise their right hand and serve their country, especially during such a difficult time in our nation's history. It has truly been your conversations at your dinner tables over the last 18 years that has instilled in them the values that brought them here to be with us. So thank you for trusting us to take care of your sons and daughters. And my pledge to you is that we will take care of them. So, Mom, I wish I could have said this 2 weeks ago. Dad, families, friends, we've got it from here. Thank you for lending us your sons and daughters, and we will take care of them. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague, our Dean of the Faculty, Brigadier General Linnell Latendra.
Hello, and thank you so much, General Edmondson. I'm Brigadier General Linnell Latendra. I'm the Dean of the Faculty at your United States Air Force Academy. I'm the proud member of the class of 1996, and I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of the parents and families of our newest members of the Long Blue Line, the class of 2024. In just over a month, the 750 members of the faculty and staff who are responsible for our academic program here are going to welcome your cadet into our classrooms. Some of those classrooms will be remote, some will be in person, and I'm happy to answer more questions about that in Q&A. But the bottom line is that our faculty and staff are excited to welcome your son and daughter to a world-class educational program where they will graduate in 4 years with a Bachelor of Science degree. I would say that the hallmark of USAFA's educational experience is actually our core curriculum. Each of your cadets will take 29 core classes for a total of 98 semester hours. These core classes are linked very intentionally to our 9 institutional outcomes. Those institutional outcomes range from things like critical thinking, clear communication, understanding national security and warrior ethos. It is these outcomes that we link across academics, athletics, and military education to ensure that your son and daughter is ready to be a leader of character in our air and space forces. On top of that broad liberal educational base, your cadet will also study one of 31 academic majors. They can even participate in 12 academic minors, including our recently established data science major and our space warfighting minor. So when you combine a pretty rigorous core curriculum along with our academic majors courses, your son or daughter is going to be averaging between 5 and 6 classes a semester. I won't kid you, it's a pretty heavy load. We're going to start them off a little bit easier though in their fall semester or their freshman year. But understand that for them to be successful in this curriculum, they're going to have to work on their study habits, think a little bit harder about time management skills, and be able to balance both their academics, their training schedule, and their athletic and physical requirements. But also know that your cadet is not in this alone. The entire institution is here to see them succeed. From our AOCs to our coaches to our faculty, we have countless resources available to make them not just survive this experience, but to thrive in it. So I'd like to point out a couple of those opportunities and resources so that you can help your cadet find them. One of them that we're going to make sure your cadet is well acquainted with is our Academic Success Center. This will help them from everything from math and science to writing and giving their first speech. We also have faculty that are here for them. As opposed to some colleges where faculty have an hour of office hours, our faculty are here for them every day of the week to provide tutoring and extra instruction and to make sure that your cadet will be highly successful. Your cadet will also have resources. In fact, they've already taken their first quiz on my major. It was a tailored website that helped your cadet think through what academic majors might be of interest to them and to learn about future career field options. We'll also make sure that your cadet has an academic advisor. We call that an Associate Air Officer Commanding for Academics, or an AOCA. Your AOCA will work with them not only during our onboarding week, but throughout their first year to make sure that the classes that they're enrolled in are the right ones for them and that we set them up for success. Encourage your cadet to make use of all of these resources to ensure that they are set up, again, not to survive this Air Force Academy experience, but to thrive in it. Finally, if you haven't heard, your cadet is actually reading a book right now. In addition to their contrails that has all their military knowledge, they've actually been given Station 11. It's our One Book, One USAFA. This book is written by Emily St. John Mandel, and if you haven't read it, I'd encourage you to go find a copy at your local library or check it out on Audible. It explores the concepts of a post-pandemic world and what it means to be part of a community and what it means to restore and to think through what life should look like after you survive a global pandemic. We thought it might be fitting for all of us here at USAFA to read that book together over this summer. Your cadet actually received this book on I-Day, and every once in a while when the Commandant allows, there's a few quiet moments for them to read that book and hopefully also write you a letter. In Q&A, I will be delighted to talk more and answer your questions about the academic programs here, ranging from our amazing research centers to the foreign exchange opportunities that your cadet will have, as well as any other questions that you might have about our world-class educational programs and how they might look a little bit different during COVID. But finally, please know we are so excited to join and welcome you to the USAFA family. It's good that you're here, and we're so excited to see your cadet in our classrooms very soon. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my teammate, Ms. Jen Black, from the class of 1992.
Thank you, General Latondra. And first, welcome to all the family members that are tuned in today. I would like to personally welcome you to USAFA and to your athletic department. I'm the executive director of the athletic department and the government lead. As the dean said, I am from the class of 1992, True Blue, and I was a 4-year letterman in volleyball. I served 27 years in the Air Force, both active duty and reserve, and retired last July. I'm so honored to be back to serving as a civilian at my alma mater. Normally, this brief is pretty easy. I've got a lot of answers, and we've got a really great plan for our PE classes and for intercollegiate athletics. But if you've been watching any of the news lately, you know things are not normal and very unprecedented. So I'll tell you what I know. I'll tell you how hard we've been working, but I do want you to know what hasn't changed is that the safety and health of your cadets is our #1 priority. And we are making plans to reduce COVID risk in all areas of our athletic programs. During basic training, your cadets are participating in an extensive physical training regimen consisting of daily morning workouts designed to prepare them for Jacks Valley, for the fitness programs that they'll see later on in their career, and to lay a solid foundation for lifelong fitness. We are taking precautions to reduce COVID risk by maintaining physical distancing in small units and staying in small units during outside workouts, as well as other ROEs, such as wearing masks whenever feasible. Once the school year starts, your cadet will participate in 3 of our athletic programs. We are a very unique athletic department, the only one in the country that has physical education, fitness and testing, and also competitive athletics. All cadets participate in competitive athletics, and that is either intercollegiate athletics, competitive club sports, or intramurals. We are developing plans to reduce risk in all of these areas by limiting participation in inherently high-risk activities and classes, and increasing opportunities and activities such as racket sports, weightlifting, aquatics, running, yoga, and softball. We are moving activities outside where possible, increasing distancing, decreasing class sizes, and limiting required close interaction to small cohorts of cadets and instructors. We require strict ROEs, including pre-activity screening and increasing cleaning protocol. These precautions, as well as the procedures put in place across USAFA, will reduce the risk of transmission while achieving the physical mission of USAFA and helping keep cadets staying physically and mentally fit. And just a quick word about our intercollegiate athletics. If I don't even like to read the news anymore, and as you know, things are changing hourly. But I wanted you to know we are planning for intercollegiate athletics this fall, winter, and spring. Competitions and training will look different, and in order to reduce COVID risk. We're waiting to hear from the NCAA and other conferences on the final details, and we will get that information out as soon as we get it. We have 29 intercollegiate sports, which make up about almost 25% of the wing. And so many of you have sent us your athletes, and we're so grateful for that. Our home conference is the Mountain West Conference. That's our affiliated conference, but we're also associated with 7 other conferences. And as information becomes available and is published, again, I just want to reiterate, our safety and health of your cadet and your cadet athletes is our #1 priority, and we will ensure that we keep them safe. And that priority is rolled up into every decision we make. So again, welcome to USAFA. We're hopeful to get you at some games soon. We're hoping to have games, and we will live stream every game that we do have so you can watch from your home if we're not able to have fans. Again, thank you, and I'd like to hand it back over to our Superintendent, Lieutenant General Silveria.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks to all of the leaders, and certainly you just learned that we have outstanding leadership here at the Air Force Academy. I did mention earlier that in addition to being the superintendent, I'm also a father, and I have 2 boys, one of which is an officer in the Navy, and another one just recently graduated from college. So I know where some of you are in some of your concerns. But I also want to let you know, you met the dean, that she also has a daughter in the class of 24. And then I'm going to introduce you to our Director of Strategic Communications, Ms. Kimberly Tabrugi, who also has a daughter in the class of 24. So we certainly, in our leadership here, have a vested interest in your cadets and in these young men and women. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Kimberly Tabrugi, as I said, our Director of Strategic Communications, and she's going to begin to take in some of the questions, and we'll moderate some of those questions that we're getting from you out there in the system. So please go ahead, Kimberly.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to all of you who sent us questions in the last 10 days when we put out a solicitation to kind of get a feel for what questions that you were interested in hearing. I do know that there have been a lot of live questions that have been added today, and we may not get to all of those, but we will make sure we get them answered and back out to you in another forum if we can't get to them today. So, sir, the largest group of questions, as we expected, are surround COVID concerns and basic training, and I think we've already answered some of those, but we'll go ahead and touch base on some of the ones that came in. The first one, for those basics who are in quarantine or in isolation, or who will be in the future, what consideration is being made for their fitness performance during BCT and for their dually year?
All right. Okay. Sorry, a switch on my part. So, Kimberly, I'll give some information, talk a little bit about COVID, and then pass it back to the Commandant for her to talk about some of the specifics about COVID. Let me first lay out one of the things that we haven't talked about under COVID is the rigorous testing that we're going to be doing. We tested everybody on the day that they arrived. We're also testing them then on day 7, on day 10, and on day 14. And we have an isolation plan for anyone that tests positive, and then they test out of that program. We also quarantine anyone that's been in close contact. And then if anyone shows any symptoms, we also test. So we have a rigorous testing program, which will allow us to also look for any opportunities to see if there's an outbreak where there's among the cadet population. Also, during the fall, we're going to test a number of the cadets every week for us to look for COVID among our population. So before I go any further on COVID, and I think our command surgeon has joined in, but let me go first to the Commandant to talk about how the basics in this quarantine isolation environment, how they're also getting out, how she's handling them around the cadet area. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you, sir. And as you can certainly imagine, the basics that have unfortunately been put into quarantine and isolation, there are a lot of basic requirements that they're going to be behind on. We've tried our best to keep them caught up with any kind of academic or virtual training. And depending on their status, we've also tried really hard to keep them caught up on their drill and ceremonies, if we can, depending on what their condition is. Physical training is a little bit more of a challenge, just basically based on the recommendation of medical guidance and not doing, significant cardio kind of physical training during this isolation and quarantine period. We recognize that we would have some of these challenges going into basic training this summer. We have built a little bit more time on the end of basic training as we transition them into the academic year. So we're working hard on a case-by-case plan for every single one of them to be able to catch them up to meet the requirements that they need to meet. We understand this won't be perfect, and we understand we might not see the same amount of physical fitness progress during their basic training window that we would normally see in a normal basic training program. But as Ms. Block said, the athletic department has built an outstanding program to meet every basic cadet where they are on the day they show up and provide them the right conditioning to improve them to be able to meet the goals they need that the institution has set forth for them. So while some of the cadets might start a little bit later, we do have time in the schedule to help them make that up. And we understand in the end, we might have to look at each one of them individually and say, we got you this far, and we will continue to work with you to get you the rest of the way. That goes for Jacks Valley as well. We expect several of them will come out of quarantine or isolation in the next day or two, and they're scheduled to go out to Jacks Valley next week. We're going to work with each one of them to do the things that they can do that make sense while they're out at Jacks Valley. And then some of those things might have to be made up later on during that transition week at the end of basic training to make sure they get the opportunity to do all of the basic requirements needed to fulfill the basic training requirements to be able to start the academic year. But I can't say there's not a one size fits all. We're going to treat every single one of them as an individual and make a plan for them. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Thanks to the Commandant for that. What I want to stay on the COVID for a little bit, Kimberly, because I know that some people have probably heard or seen some social media about hundreds of cases out there, which frankly is just simply not true. And I'll divert as the superintendent for a moment to remind you that if you're reading something on social media, then it's probably not a very good source. And if you want to know what's going on here at the Air Force Academy, please use an official source. Please get to one of the AOCs. Please get to some of the sources that we gave you. Our positive numbers haven't been anywhere near that. They've been very low, and we are functioning our testing and our quarantine and isolation with CDC within CDC guidelines. We've seen numbers that are very consistent when you bring in 1,200 people from all over the country and all of the places around the country, and we've been able to manage them with this population. So, Kimberly, I know you have some other questions. Let me take a chance here with our command surgeon, with Dr. Chris Grusendorf, and let him talk a little bit about the COVID care, quarantine, isolation, and how we're managing within CDC guidelines. Dr.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Chris Grusendorf, and first I'd like to say welcome and thank you for joining. I'd like to say what a privilege it is for me to take care of your sons and daughters, our cadets. It's important for you to understand the medical team that's here, and I represent a team of more than 700 medical professionals, all dedicated to the care of your sons and daughters. We have a public health department and preventative medicine program, a cadet medicine clinic, all specialized in those areas and oriented towards the health and safety of our cadets. You should also know, as we speak of athletics, we have a world-class orthopedic and sports medicine program. Every cadet is an athlete. You need to know that we have a focus on prevention, on rehabilitation, and then on ensuring that our cadets meet their physical goals while they're here at the Air Force Academy. In addition to our physical care, I'd like you to know we have a focus on ensuring the mental well-being of our cadets. We have a whole team of behavioral health, counselors, chaplains, and others who engage to provide social, spiritual, and mental health care to all our cadets. The goal is to overcome physical and mental barriers, to become strong and resilient Air and Space Force officers. So I just want to share that with you so you can understand the scope of the program that's here to support your sons and daughters. When it comes to COVID, this is a very unique environment. You saw many months ago, we get concerned when we bring many people together into one place. So at our Air Force Academy, we're following Centers for Disease Control guidelines, as well as professional guidelines for other institutes of higher education. It's important also to know, as General Severia shared, that we were expecting to have COVID positive individuals come here, return to the Air Force Academy, so we were well prepared. Your Department of Defense has given us resources, both in terms of testing, in terms of medical care and treatment, and the facilities that we have at the Air Force Academy to ensure there's a safe environment for us to care for those who are either COVID positive or who have been exposed to their fellow classmates who've had COVID, to make sure that we are identifying them, that we are caring for them, and then returning them back as quickly as possible to the training and in military environment. You need to know that most of our cadets who have been COVID positive are asymptomatic. Many of them didn't even know it. We only picked it up on testing. It's important to know that in this demographic, in this age group, that COVID generally results, if any symptoms at all, of very mild illness. That's essentially what we've seen here at the Air Force Academy, either no symptoms or very limited symptoms. Should we have any cadets that require a higher level of care, we partner with health institutions here in Colorado Springs who could certainly provide a higher level of care for those who had that need as a result of COVID. So, General Severia mentioned one of the most important things for us to do is to identify COVID early. Many of our cadets wouldn't even know they had it. When we identify it, you've heard about quarantine and isolation. Those are means for us to ensure that we control COVID or any other infectious disease within our population. So quarantine, to get our terms right, quarantine means a time period where someone who's been a close contact with a COVID positive individual is put into a room, okay, where we can monitor, provide health care, attend to their needs to make sure that they don't develop COVID over a 14-day period. We've learned from the Centers of Disease Control that that's the time that we need to watch them to make sure that if they were a close contact, that they won't develop the disease. During this time, they'll get COVID testing both before and after that 14-day period. Because of our environment, we also may have the opportunity from lessons learned for individuals to be in rooms together. That's important in our environment. We've learned that during the quarantine or isolation period, being together is an important part of that support element to make sure that we protect the mental well-being of our cadets. Isolation is a tool that we use to bring someone who has had COVID, currently has COVID, or some other disease that may be COVID, an upper respiratory illness, a pneumonia, or some other symptoms, into a period of time where we can test them regularly, monitor their symptoms, and ensure they don't develop COVID disease. Once they complete this time, usually within 10 days, they are tested and released back into their training environment. So I'll stop there for any additional questions, but that's our initial plan. We expected COVID in our environment, we test it, we've identified it, we provided for a high level of care while they're in quarantine or isolation, and then we seek to rapidly return them into their training environment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a couple of other COVID questions that I think flow nicely from what Colonel Grusendorf just spoke to us about. How will we address the ongoing mental health risk during isolation or quarantine?
Thanks, Kimberly. So I'll start with a couple concepts and then pass it over to the Commandant to talk about that. Colonel Grusendorf mentioned a few elements. Part of our medical group that we have here, we have mental health professionals. We also have a counseling center that's here. We also have a chaplaincy where we have a number of chaplains and their assistants, and all of those are in and among the cadets, and they're in and among those in quarantine and in isolation. Because of the unique situation of COVID, the Air Force is sending us some extra people in those areas to do that. but the Commandant is also doing a lot of things to connect them with others and ways to get them out so that she's watching out for their mental health. So I'll pass that over to Michelle for a moment to talk about that.
Thank you, sir. And as Dr. Grusendorf said, every cadet's situation is different, and it really kind of depends on why they're in quarantine and isolation for exactly what we can do to support them. As the doc said, they're living on 2 different floors of one of our dormitories, split up by the ones that are there for quarantine and the ones that are there for isolation. We've continued to evolve our processes to make sure that we are meeting all of their basic requirements and then doing anything we can to keep them connected to each other and to keep them connected to their flights and to get them outside and do whatever kind of activities they can. If we can pair them up with a roommate, we do. That's easier in quarantine than isolation. Isolation is more dependent upon why they're there and how long they have been there. We've connected them all virtually with their flight, and so you may even have seen photos. Whenever the flight is having any kind of gathering, any kind of conversation, airman's time, mentorship, they bring in the cadets in quarantine and isolation on a separate laptop. So each cadet gets a laptop and they are part of that conversation and part of that meeting. Even if they're outside, there's always a cell phone or two that one of the other cadets in the flight has to ensure that they are connected to all of those conversations. So while virtually is not the same as physical presence, they're keeping up with everything that's going on inside that flight. And while they're in the dorms, we have their dorm rooms open for various periods so that they can have interaction with the people across the hall, more so for the cadets in quarantine and isolation, but they all have periods and opportunities, significant ones now, during the day where their doors are open so they can have conversations. We've evolved to letting them have opportunities to go outside during the day, and depending on why they're there, depends on what they get to do when they're outside. A lot more drill and ceremony practice for the cadets in quarantine, but still an opportunity for all of the cadets in isolation to be able to get outside and have a break. We've set up a very rigorous, I think, schedule to have all of the helping agencies visit them every single day. So in addition to the medics that make their rounds throughout the day, we have counselors, we have chaplains, mental health professionals, and even the cadet cadre that kind of specialize in some of those helping agency functions are very present. We've appointed permanent party to be there 24/7 and to be in charge of every single cadet's special issues, so somebody knows exactly what is going on and what the individual circumstances are of why each cadet is there in the quarantine and isolation floors. Given an opportunity to call home. So every night they all get to call home and have a conversation with you and give you an update. And then we've really gone and looked for other things that might occupy their free time, whether that's books, games, activities that they can do. There's been a big effort to bring more stuff up there to give them if there are times when they can't virtually be connected to their flight because the flights are doing things that just don't allow for that. So we're working hard. We've made tremendous progress. I'll be honest with you, it's been a process to evolve to where we are today, but we're in a pretty good place today, and we've learned a lot, and we will continue to learn from your sons and daughters that are there. I had a meeting with all of them last night. At 8 o'clock last night, I had a meeting with every single one of them that was in quarantine and isolation to hear from them, get a little feedback from them, give them an update on what we're doing. And they also have a direct voice to me that they can use on their laptop through an anonymous feedback line where they can tell me what's going on, what they need, and I read all of those comments. And I think that we've been pretty responsive to the comments that they have put forth to me at this point. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll add one more point on COVID, and then back to Kimberly. And I'm sure there's probably another question on COVID, but I just want to make sure that that there's not any misunderstanding if if a cadet while they're here gets COVID, that perhaps there's some thought that comes with a disqualification or removal or something like that. And there is no set, determination that if somebody has COVID or whether they're a cadet now or a basic cadet, that they're going to be disqualified medically to be a cadet or to be in the military. Every individual case is evaluated. It's just like any other medical condition that they are evaluated individually, depending on whatever medical condition it is, to determine whether they remain qualified. But there is no set determination that if they have COVID that they will be removed or that they won't be disqualified to join the Air Force or the Space Force. Each case, each individual will have to be evaluated, and that's the same for any medical condition, by the way. All conditions that, and we have their medical care. I'll speak as a parent to a parent. We've got them. We've got their medical care, all elements of it, including the teeth, and any piece of it that's determined that has to do with commissionability, whether they can, what specialty they can do in the Air Force. Each case is managed and reviewed individually. So with that, let me go back to Kimberly.
Thanks, sir. And you're right. We do have 2 more COVID questions and then we'll move on. So I'm going to go ahead and combine these 2 questions. The first one is, will basics in quarantine and isolation be able to participate in the oath of office ceremony on 11 July? And how will basics who have been in isolation or quarantine be able to fulfill BCT requirements that they may have missed? How can they make up those experiences?
Thank you, Kimberly. Yes, they will participate in the oath ceremony tomorrow afternoon. I was out there this morning with all of them practicing. It was an awesome sight, and all of the quarantine and isolation crew was out there with us this morning as well. So we have a plan for them to be able to be with us and to stand up and take that oath with their class. And I'm excited for that tomorrow afternoon. That'll be a huge milestone. And back to, will they be able to make up the requirements? We've done a pretty good job of outlining exactly what those basic requirements are and how we get there. And as I said before, it will really depend on every basic cadet's individual situation and their health. But we have a plan and we're working through how do we get them there from here, and we'll continue to do that. Now, the reality could be that if a basic cadet spends the entire basic training in isolation and they're truly sick and we can't get them back into the environment, there could be some that they can't finish those basic requirements. And the reality is some might have to come back next year. But our goal, if feasible, is to find a way to make up those requirements and get them through the program this summer. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, General Edmondson. Another question then is, how are the squadrons assigned? Are they random? Are they with some scheme to blend cadets or put similar cadets together? And is the squadron that my basic cadet is in now, will that be the same squadron for the next 4 years?
Thank you, Kimberly. The answer is it's kind of a combination. So squadrons are assigned using an algorithm that is partially randomized, but also balances the demographics that we want to see in each squadron. So are they intercollegiate athletes? Do they have prior service experience? What are the demographics that we want to make up a squadron based on the demographics of the class, to try to spread that out so cadets are really exposed to the total diversity of their class, even within their own squadron. Ideally, each flight of basic cadets does stay together when they go into their academic year squadrons. Now, in a COVID world, we are looking at how we're going to organize those squadrons going into the academic year, depending on how we're going to house the cadets in the dormitories. So there could be a few changes where every cadet might not necessarily end up staying with the squadron that they went through BCT with. But if that's the case, we're going to look to pair them in groups still so that they still go with people that they know. But we don't have answers to exactly what that will look like. But traditionally, we try to keep them all together going into the academic year. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks, ma'am. Well, as we do.
Hey, Kimberly, sorry.
Sorry,
sorry to hijack for 1 second. As the superintendent, I just want to stay on the topic of the squadrons for 1 second. Kimberly. When your cadets are in that squadron, when they get that final squadron and they move in after basic training, that is where your source of information for accurate information should be. And that's also where your cadets' source of accurate information is. So when you're wondering, then you need to ask the AOC, the Air Officer Commanding of that squadron, your question. And when your cadet seems to be wondering about something, they should ask their Air Officer Commanding. That is the central source for the cadet. That's their immediate commander and supervisor, and that's who they should ask. And sometimes cadets forget that, and you can help them with that. And sometimes parents forget that, and you can help each other with that. That is the best source of information. Sorry to hijack there, Kimberly. I'll go back to you for some questions.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that. So this question comes up every year. We always get a lot of questions about mail. Mail is a really big deal for the cadet life. So one of the questions that came in is my basic cadet has not been allowed to check mail more than once a week. They've only been here 2 weeks, so I'm not sure. But what is the routine for checking mail?
Thank you, Kimberly. I will tell you that the mail process has been a little bit harder this year with COVID because we can't funnel them all through the post office the way we're used to doing that. So we have had to establish all new processes for delivering the mail into the squadrons and sorting them. So it's been more cumbersome than normal. But the reality is they should all be able to check their mail and get their mail on a regular basis. But I think COVID slowed us down a little bit initially. It is on my radar and I'm paying attention to it because I want to make sure they have access to their mail on a regular basis. So we'll continue to evolve that process. We have had some struggles, but I think we're in a good place today. Over.
Thank you, ma'am. Dually Day Out is a tradition at the Academy. Will we still be able to do Dually Day Out this year? And if so, what would COVID testing look like for that event?
Thank you, Kimberly. So a Dually Day Out is an important tradition, but I will have to tell you, when you look back at the history of the Academy over some years, that there are times when Dually Day Out doesn't happen. So I'm going to save the Commandant the answer to this question right now, is that as an institution, it's the kind of thing that we're going to have to review. And we haven't completely decided what we're going to be able to do about Dually Day Out, depending on COVID. As you can imagine, when they go out into the community, they're in with the families. And so we have to consider that. So we have not completely come up with a day with a plan for Dually Day Out, but there have been a number of years here where we've had Dually Day In, and that's been a part of the summer, and the cadets still get a time to relax from basic training and still get a moment. But for now, we're still working on Dually Day Out.
Thanks, General Silveria. The next question is, with thousands of cadets.
Right, you probably start over.
With all the cadets coming back for the academic year, how will the upper classes be integrated back into the Academy? Will they also be in quarantine as the basics were?
Okay, so we've taken in at this point roughly 3/4 of the cadet wing. So we took in a number of cadets in the first batch to start the summer programs, as well as part of their leadership training to be the cadre for the basic training. And then we took in the class of 24. Now we have about 1,200 that are returning the end of the month, and we're working through those details. And as they return, they will be setting up to begin the academic year. At that point, the class of 24 will be complete with basic training. We'll have all of the cadets here, and then when they arrive, the military term that all of the services are using right now is referred to as restriction of movement. So when they fly in or drive in, and however they get here, when they arrive, they'll go into 14 days of restriction of movement with some testing. that way, in case they brought it with them from some other location, they won't then spread COVID around to other locations. But I do want to continue on the academic year theme and let the dean talk a little bit about the classes are not going to be 100% in person. They're not going to be 100% online. They're going to be very different, and she's done a lot of work on how many people can be in a class and how we're going to protect professors, et cetera. So I'm going to let her break some of that down.
Thank you very much, General Silveria. Yes, we have been doing a lot of work on how fall semester classes will work. First and foremost, we have a whole set of planning parameters for our classes. That includes a reduced number of individuals cadets that will be allowed in a particular classroom. That is based on CDC guidance. You will also know that your cadet will have to wear one of these anytime they're walking in my building. So if they're coming into Fairchild or CTEF, which are our two academic buildings, they're going to have a mask on. So will all of the faculty and staff. We've put around various hand sanitizers, and we have increased cleaning responsibilities throughout all of our classes. In addition, our classrooms themselves will be a little bit different because not every class will be held in person. We are across the institution, about 50% of our courses will be online or through remote learning capabilities. The other 50% will be in person or have the opportunity to be in person. This will reduce our footprint in our classes and also ensure that we are having fewer people cross in our hallways and up and down our stairwells. That said, we continue to upgrade our lecture capture capabilities to ensure that we are providing the educational experience that our cadets need across their remote learning, and that will enable our cadets to have access to their faculty members through a multitude of remote platforms to ensure they're getting the extra instruction and tutoring that they might need. So that's a brief summary of where we're going. We're learning a lot through this summer's program as well about how we're doing academics in this COVID environment, both through a mixture of in-person and remote, and we're getting better every day. With that, sir, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks, General Latendra. I think there's another question that may be right up your alley. We did get asked, how are class schedules determined and how are the AP tests utilized?
All right. First, it's very determined on an individual basis, and I'll give you an example to illustrate. If your son or daughter scored a 5 on the AP chemistry test, well, normally they might validate out of our Chemistry 100 class. However, if your son or daughter wants to attend medical school, they won't be validating because medical school doesn't allow or take validation credits. That's an example to show you that this is a very individualized determination. Your cadets, even before they arrived, were taking some placement tests. They've taken even more placement tests since they've been here, both on math and foreign languages. And so we want to make sure that we're getting your cadet in the right classes. We also have a 1-week onboarding process at the very first week of August. That week of onboarding, your cadet will be meeting with their academic advisor to make sure and to double check that the classes that they're in are the right ones for them. And so we want to make sure that we do this and meet your students' needs for their classes. But the fall semester as well as the spring semester of their 4-degree year will likely be mostly core classes that we've talked about, those required classes that all Air Force Academy graduates are taking. But we'll make sure that your cadet is in the right ones and have the right capabilities in order to do well in those classes. Back over to you, Kimberly.
Thank you, ma'am. General Silveria, I know you and your leadership team are thinking very carefully about fall events, including athletics, Parents Weekend, and fall break. You touched a little bit on this earlier, but can you please talk about the complexity of the decisions and when we may be making announcements, particularly including the fall sports and intramurals in the fall?
Yeah, thanks, Kimberly. I think as the superintendent and as the commander here, I have to assure you about a few things that what our priorities are. Our priorities are first the health and safety of the cadets. After that, our priorities are executing the mission here, which is continuing in the developmental program, the 47-month program, which includes military training, the academic degree, but it also includes athletic ability. But to be clear, that developmental does not necessarily include an intercollegiate sport per se. We make athletes, all 4,400 of them are athletes. But they may be an intercollegiate athlete, they may be an intramural athlete, they may be a competitive club athlete. In our decisions that we're trying to decide on the fall sports, we have to consider the health and safety and the ability of these cadets to continue to go forward in this developmental program. Exposing or adding risk to an athlete that isn't allowed to continue for some reason, I don't think would be responsible. So we're going to continue to watch all of the intercollegiate conferences as well as the NCAA and all considerations within Colorado and our region on those sports. Other things such as Parents Weekend, our decisions are very similar. I mean, I have to consider what's going on in the local community and in Colorado and what it'll be like to have visitors come on the base. And what would it be like to have people come from all over the country? I mean, as an example, these 1,200 that showed up for this class, they brought positive cases. We expected it. We tested for it. We isolated them. We are caring for them. The doc talked about how we're doing that. So if we bring people in from all over the country, we can also expect the same thing. And we have to decide how responsible that would be, considering the situation. While we're on the athletic theme, I'm gonna let the Jen Block talk a little bit about that overall athletic program. That the fact that there are intramurals, there are other programs, and that we're continuing to evaluate all of those for the fall, along with the physical education. Back to you, Jen.
Thank you, sir. As I said earlier, we're planning for fall in intercollegiate athletics, and we're also planning for our PE, physical education classes, and for intramurals. My team has been working on this all summer with their director of sports medicine and health experts across the base and across the country. And again, our #1 priority is the health and safety of your cadet. We are so hopeful because we believe it is so important to the development and the mission of the Air Force Academy is to have that physical fitness component. And we're gonna do it in a very safe, COVID-friendly way. PE classes will happen. They might look different than they've ever looked before, but we will have PE classes. We will also have some form of intramurals because that competition is critical to the development of leaders of character. And we are hopeful we'll have intercollegiate athletics. And we are working hard with the Mountain West Conference, with the NCAA, and with all of our conferences to see how we can do that in a safe manner for our cadet athletes. Back over to General Severia.
Thank you. It's been a great session. I mean, I said from the beginning how disappointed I was to not be able to do this in person with all of you. Any of you that have children in other institutions, then as I've had 2 others, any of you also in higher ed recognize how difficult what all institutions are facing, but also recognize how unique it is of an opportunity like this to get to meet the highest levels of leadership of an institution. So it's been a real privilege for us to do this. What I'm going to do now is to go back to our Executive Director of Athletics, then to our Dean, and then to the Commandant, and back to me, and we're going to have just some closing comments. So Jen, I know you just were there, but back to you just for a closing comment.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to again echo the senior leaders' thanks for loaning us your children and for them taking a chance on us. This is a phenomenal opportunity in education and a really honorable way to live their lives. It's definitely not the easiest path they could have chosen. And I just want to say thank you for tuning in and thank you for loaning us your children. We're excited to grow lots of new Falcon fans And I hope to see all of you online or in games and in the stands when we can have, when it's safe to have fans. Thank you so much for joining in. And now I'd like to hand it over to our Dean, General Latondra.
Thank you so much, Ms. Block. I guess I want to close by saying that the experiences that your sons and daughters are having right now are going to be with them for the rest of their lives. And when COVID starts to allow, you're going to start meeting their classmates. And I know that my classmates and my classmates' parents are still people that I keep in contact with. They've been amazing mentors for me personally throughout my life. And know that when we say USAFA family, we mean it. Welcome. We're glad that you're here. We are excited about having your sons and daughters in our classrooms, about being their mentors, and about having them experience and appreciate the amazing things that the United States Air Force Academy has to offer. Thanks so much, and over to our Commandant, General Edmondson.
Thank you, and I think it's important to say in closing that the weight of this responsibility is not lost on us. Bringing a class into a military service academy during a global pandemic is not anything that any of us have been trained for or thought that we would be doing. And we are committed to taking care of your sons and daughters, and we are committed to giving them the experience that they deserve. And we also are really excited about the opportunity that this has given us. We know that the world is watching. When we graduated the class of 2020, we were the first, and we watched schools across the nation replicate what we were doing. We're the first military service academy to bring our class in. The other military service academies are calling us, asking us how we're doing it. We're the first of many higher learning institutions to bring students back to live in dormitories. We have an incredible opportunity to lead the way for the nation, and we're proud of that opportunity. We're proud of what we're doing here, and I'm excited that your sons and daughters will have this memory for the rest of their lives. The class of 2024 is the class that entered the United States Air Force Academy during a global pandemic, and I couldn't be more proud of how they're rising to that challenge. The time I spend with them is overwhelming in watching their progress and their success. And I can't wait every day to come to work and get out there with them and see them in their environment and seeing them thrive in a global pandemic. So again, as we all said, thank you. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for lending your sons and daughters to us. And we realize we don't have this perfect, but we are learning and growing every single day to ensure we can do everything that we can to take care of them. So thank you so much, and welcome to the family. Sir?
Thank you, and thanks to the team. I just want to hit a few reminders, and I'll echo the rest of my leadership team here. We're exceptionally proud. I'm a graduate, as I mentioned, of the Air Force Academy, and I'm exceptionally proud of the class of 24 to take on this challenge. And we're going to do everything we can to keep them safe and healthy, and to make them successful. Remember, as Michelle just pointed out, we are not sure how to run a higher ed institution and military training in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, but we are doing everything that we can to learn, to grow, to be adaptable, to get our mission done. I mentioned that this is going to be dynamic, and the reason it's dynamic is that we need to respond to the conditions. Depending on how the virus is and how the environment is around us, we cannot remain static, and we will not, in order to so that we can continue to develop these young men and women. We have a plan. We have a solid plan. We're going to have testing that is we already have testing that is in place. We have procedures outlined for distancing and zoning, and as the dean pointed out, how we're going to execute classes in so many ways. We have a care plan, an isolation plan, and a quarantine plan. We have all of the support elements behind that. It doesn't mean that we have it all figured out by any means, but we are learning, and we will continue to adapt and make each part of it better as we learn as an institution. We will post this on the website with the parents' website. We will also post frequently asked questions. So as questions come in, we will put those answers from. It doesn't have to be during a session like this. we will put those answers up for frequently asked questions. And also, when I'm done, we'll close out with another resource slide. There was one in the beginning, and this is another resource slide that'll give you an opportunity. You can take a picture of it, and then you can have those resources. Just a reminder again that the Air Officer Commandings of the squadrons is where you should go for information and where your cadets should go. So thank you very much for being with us today. It's truly a privilege to be with you and a privilege to have your time. Thank you very much, and welcome to the United States Air Force Academy. We're out here in the Superintendent's Conference Room.